Same. I prefer more responsibility because I did not pay $1,000 for nothing and to just sit around and talk to a bunch of new people. So I think more responsibility, we would get more from the program.
I next spoke to two delegates from the Board of Equalization.
We are in the State Board of Education, and we are creating our own charter school.
I think we probably have less responsibilities than other people, but we have a fun too, so it's a good balance.
We just write up our charters, and we work in groups most of the time, and we just get what we have to get done.
I think that the balance of having work but then also being able to bond with the other delegates in your group is probably really beneficial, but then also maybe it's nicer to have extra work so you know what really goes on.
Armed with my new knowledge, I set out to speak to the three governor candidates.
I'm here with Jesse Ruckert, who is running to be 61st Youth Governor. Okay, so tell me about your platform that you're running on.
Platform-wise, I wouldn't really say that I have one. I mean, I guess my platform is myself. The only thing I have to offer is who I am and what I know and what I can do. It's really important for me to make sure as many people in the program are as involved as possible and are having as much fun as possible. I think fun, I know it's a serious program and we work hard, but I think fun is a really, really integral part of the program.
My platform is essentially the idea that the youth governors, when you elect a youth governor, it's so important because you're not just electing someone to fill a role, you're electing somebody to create a role. And so my idea is to get youth in government as involved in all aspects outside of youth and government as possible. We have 2,500 bright people here who all represent the youth of California, but I don't know how much of that youth outside of us 2,500 know that they're being represented and know what we're doing here and know what's getting done. And I think that they should, and I think we should try and find a way to not only better this program, but better how this program influences areas outside of it.
My platform is similar to Barack Obama's, which is interesting because I just found that out yesterday. My platform is on unity and progress. I think that sometimes a lot of delegations are concerned, especially smaller delegations, about being underrepresented. But what I have to say to them is that there is unity within our program, and that even though we're from different delegations, we're all one, and we really need to get this concept of unity out. The other one is progress. A lot of politicians nowadays just talk about change and how we can change everything. But I think what we need to do is take the program in a forward direction and use progress in order to expand and better the program.
So many of the candidates have promised progress or change, so what would you plan to do along those lines?
Progress and change-wise, I think we do. This is a pretty solid program as it is, but nothing's perfect. One thing that I have been talking about is I'd like more of the different sections of the program, court and legislature, to be more involved with each other. I know I have friends who are in the court program, and I have no idea what's going on in the court program. As a senator, I don't really hear any of that, and that doesn't really affect me. And I know in the real government, that's not really how it is. So I think that could make it a little more realistic.
And the first one is the idea of a budget, and perhaps it would be under the legislative analyst department to make it more of a treasury, or each house and decided how much money that they could spend on their legislation. And that way, you weren't just voting for the bill that was okay, or the bill that was good, or the bill that was passable, but it had to be the best bill, and it had to be the best idea, because otherwise you could run out of money.
Well, unity, it's just to bring that type of cohesion to all the delegations, to let them understand and get the feeling that we are one program and one large youth and government family. Progress-wise, there's so many ways that this program can expand and progress. So I think that I personally have certain ideas, but I think that I need to get ideas from delegates. Yeah. It's not just about me. Being a leader is getting that information from the delegates and bringing it back. So I think that progression really comes from the delegates, not necessarily leaders.
I've gone around and talked to delegates from different areas and different programs, and about what issues or problems they have with the program, or something they really want to change. And some of them only have really half-hour meetings. They're really short. They feel like they don't accomplish anything. The material may be a little boring, and this happened like in some like Board of Equalization, Board of Education, and they're great programs, but there are these problems and these people aren't having as much fun like you talk about as they should have, and I think they'd almost be a little more effective if that happened. Other things, they don't have like enough time for independent study, or joint session people feel is way too long and people don't like the ratio. So if you could, what would you change that? How would you go about doing that?
Okay, well that's quite a list. But as I said, making sure that this program is really enjoyable and fun is really a huge priority for me. I realize I'm in Senate, so I've had to sit through a few boring bills, just like, oh my god, this is awful. And I think, I know in the NIC, when they're selecting proposals to go on through the different stages, debatability is something that they're rated on. So I think that's something we could, I know that's not how it really works in the real government, but I think that's something that maybe could happen in committee, and I think could really like enhance the program, at least for the Senate and the Assembly. You mentioned the ratio, which I have been a victim of the ratio before.
Me too.
I've definitely had a lot of time standing in the doorway, having a chat with people in the room because I'm not in ratio. But you know, that just comes with the territory. That's just, I mean, I think that's something we can deal with, and make a friend, grab someone to come with you to make ratio, as far as I'm concerned. I don't even remember what else you mentioned. But all in all, it's just, for me, it's all about having fun and all about encouraging the people in the program to just go and do as much as they possibly can, get as involved as they possibly can, because that's where the fun lies.
All of these little things that sometimes people overlook in order to achieve a greater goal would be very important to get those all settled and try and deal with them in the best way possible, so that way that the greater goal can be achieved, that are separate and they feel like they have nothing to do with the rest of the program, that they don't meet very often, that when they do meet, it's boring, it's not interesting to them. And I agree. I don't think that they're just complaining. I think it's 100% true. A lot of the areas that is a problem. And I think that we should not just be looking for program areas to put delegates into because we have so many delegates. I think as long as we have interested delegates, we should take them all in, and we should come up with better programs, or take the programs we have and find a way to make them interesting. And I think part of that is things like the meetings. I agree that there are program areas that are separate and they feel like they have nothing to do with the rest of the program, that they don't meet very often, that when they do meet, it's boring, it's not interesting to them, and I agree.
I think my beliefs on those is that you kind of need a balance. I know that some people believe that the meetings are too short, and I think what we can do to alleviate that is to get them doing more things. And I think that's one of the ways we can progress, is to expand those program areas, because I know that some people are just there and they're out of their minds, but they can just really focus and concentrate and they can actually get things accomplished. Also, I think that it's good to have a balance. You need to have kind of that work that you may not necessarily find interesting, but you will definitely learn from it. So things like education or economics that people might see on the Board of Education or Board of Equalization, they may not necessarily be totally interested in it, but I think that they're going to gain a lot from learning about that. And I think that's why youth and government's social time is so important, whether it's the dance, karaoke, you know, the moon bounce. Those things really help equalize all that learning that we're getting. So I think what we need to do is, the balance is pretty good there, and I think that we just need to work to prepare people, and it's also a lot of the delegates' job too. They also need to go out of their, you know, boundaries and really step up and go after and research all of these issues. And I think then that's when the delegates can really discuss, we can exchange ideas, and that's when the program will be efficient.